la 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 la.
Well, hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Wendy Stuart.
And I'm Tym Moss.
And we'd like to welcome you to If These Walls Could Talk. But Tim, I'm a little discombobulated today because our computer is at a different angle than it's normally in. It's a little ass backwards.
I think we're just sitting a little different, so we had to turn the computer.
But I'm completely famished.
Yeah, it's thrown her off.
I'm like totally thrown up. Who am I? Does anyone know what day it is? Oh my God! No, I tell you, I don't know what day it is because we had
Wednesday. Time for If These Walls Could Talk.
Right, but here's what's been going on for me since New Year's Day, right?
God, yes.
From the 2nd of January to now feels for me like 3 weeks went by already.
Right. I agree.
Like something weird is going on with the time. I don't know whether it's climate change. Maybe do you think it's like affecting us? My God. So speaking of climate change, nobody knows this, but there was a huge tornado in Panama City yesterday.
Oh my God!
In Florida. Yeah, it was. Was there one in?
Was it? I thought there was one in Fort Lauderdale. Maybe it was in Panama.
No, it was Panama City.
Just like and back up again.
Let me tell you, creepy. I know it's just like all this really weird stuff is
and the
going
torrential
on.
Rain.
Yes,
in January.
Right. It's
usually
it
would be
biblical.
snow. It's very weird.
It's very weird. It's very weird. We are doing our best though, our best to get through this month, and to do that, Tim and I have to be social. So
yes,
I got to give a shout out right now. We are celebrating. Okay, so this is my birthday kickoff. It's a whole month, and we had cake at the Explorers Club, and with all of my fabulous girlfriends who were off exploring in so many amazing places in the world. But we all came together at least for my birthday.
Oh, nice.
This week, Tym Moss and Ike Velli are joining me
this Saturday
in Port Jervis, New York, at Ma's and Papa Joe's, along with Bell Pepper, to present 50 Shades of Gay, a fundraiser for the LGBTQ that I'm a part of there, which is called TriVersity. And we're going to do the show. We're going to have cake. We're going to have a raffle. I love the raffle. So much fun. Oh my God. And speaking, my birthday, the amazing Catherine Schuler told me.
Oh, I love Catherine.
All right. And she's just incredible. And you should Google her. She just carries forward the Marvel Comic Foundation and is so involved with cosplay and fashion shows. And she's a mover and shaker. She went to see this play Emergence, and she didn't just see it once. She saw it 7 times. All right. So
wow.
She put a post up on Facebook with a bunch of our friends, and I commented. I'm like, oh my God, it sounds like my cup of tea. And she gets back to me and she says, I have a ticket for you. I'm taking you for your birthday. I know.
Nice.
And it was really great. Unfortunately, the last day was Sunday. So that was that. But yeah, I was excited to go there. It's called Emergence. And the cast was from LA, and they just were so filled with energy. And the play itself was very like philosophical, like, why are we here? Kind of like if a tree falls.
Emergence, that
EME, right? EMERGENC. It's kind of like the stuff you ask yourself: are we in parallel universe? Is there life beyond what we know it? What's going on in space? And how is energy used in all our lives? Anyway, it was great. It was just like our cup of tea.
I love that. Yeah, that's my kind of show.
I know, but you can't see it, Tim, because this was the last day of its run. It's been here since October. But are you working on a Jed Ryan's film? Are you going to be working with Jed Ryan? Okay.
Yeah, I've got a part in Jed Ryan's upcoming film.
I figured. So this is just a preliminary where you can't say anything. We're zipping our lips, but we're very excited to be working with our amazing friend, Jed Ryan, who is producing a sequel to his last film. The last film was called Modest Male Exposure. And this film is going to be really fun. I'm very excited about my role.
Me too.
We're not going to tell you what they are, but we're shooting that the end of January.
Yeah.
And
this last week I had an early birthday brunch with Eris, our friend Eris.
He's
an amazing singer. He also produces It's Twisted TV, which I'm a part of. I'm one of the cast members in that. And like she said, we're doing 50 Shades of Gay up in Port Jervis this Saturday. let me see what else. I forget. I can't. I need my calendar to remember everything I did this
well,
week.
I'm reminding you that
But-
you have an upcoming trips.
Oh, yes,
upcoming
yes.
trips.
But also, Rob Gould was in town this weekend. He's the writer of Little House on the Ferry, which I'm helping with, and I'm also part of the cast in that show. And we were looking at a couple theaters, and we went to see Moulin Rouge last night, which was just a spectacle. Yes, it's a high energy, very fast moving, very fun show. I highly recommend on Broadway. Let me see. Yeah, but I do have a couple trips. I'll be in Florida next week with Rob because his husband Jerome from France had just got his citizenship. And so we're having a celebration for him, and I'm going down to sing and perform. So
and speaking of France,
well, and then after I get back from Florida, then I have booked myself on a getaway that I've always wanted to do. I just booked myself to Paris, which I've always wanted to go to.
I love it.
At the end of end of February, early March, in that range. So
I love it.
I cannot wait. I've always wanted to go to Paris. I have a feeling I'm going to love it. I will be doing a lot of the touristy stuff, but I'll also just be hanging, just doing whatever I want to do, which I never get to do.
Well, you know what? It's a preliminary. I should turn you on to a film I saw on Netflix with Eugene Levy's son, David Levy.
I've heard, that's very good.
It's called Good Grief.
Yes.
All right. And it's about grieving. And part of it takes place in the UK, but a lot of the scenes are in Paris. And it was beautiful. I really love the way it was filmed. It made me feel like I was there. So and of course, all the places they're at, you have bird's eye views of the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
Are you going to have an Eiffel Tower view?
No, actually, I'm going to be in the center of the city.
The center of the city.
I will be in Châtelet.
Châtelet to you too.
Châtelet de Halle,
well,
I think. Anyway.
Yes. Our guest today. Let me just, oh my God. I almost forgot the most important thing before I get to the guest. It's birthday.
The computer twisted.
Thank you. The computer twisted me up. January 18th. Please join me here at Pangea.
Right here.
It's my birthday. 8:30. Be there or be square. And they're all big birthdays. This is a small one because of the Walmart rollback. I'm actually younger than I was in the last 10 years. We're going backwards. So join me for my 40th birthday party here at Pangea. That'll be 8:30 on the 18th. Okay. Now I can get to the most important part of our show, which is our amazing guest.
Absolutely.
I was very excited to meet our guest at a function at Stonewall for a wonderful musician who's a writer, female, Harriet Schock. This person had worked on Harriet's CD with her new CD. And, you never know who you're going to run into with these things, right? And I start talking to this guy, and he tells me that he's a dream interpreter who's captivated audiences for 12 years on radio and television. And he has workshops that discuss topics like dream interpretation, overcoming your phobias, healing your ancestry, and helps you identify your blocks and your challenges.
Which I could use.
Right. We can all use that. I mean, he's familiar with, I don't know how many of you know about the deck of runes or the oracle decks or any of those things. But, coming from a Scotch-Irish background, I am into all of that. And you know what? This person reached out to me, and I was so glad that he did, because I was dying to have him on the show. So without further ado, please welcome Jefferson Harman.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
There you are. Oh my God.
How are you, Jefferson?
It's great to have you.
I'm good. How are you, Tim?
Good.
So Tim and I are looking to bring clarity and joy into our lives.
Into everyone's life.
And into right. That's right. Because we like to spread it around, right? So you understand that. And it's really fabulous to have you, someone of your talents, on our show today to be here with us.
Appreciate
that. I call today's segment "To Sleep, Perchance to Dream," as said by William Shakespeare, right? We're going to open this up, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, but I know just in general for people, how much do our dreams reflect our
Hmm.
subconscious, or how much do our dreams forecast our future?
Oh, you're jumping right into it.
I am. And then we're going to go all
This
over
is
the
it.
world
This
with
is
that.
good.
This is my thing.
Well, the way you phrased that question, it sounds like that you're looking for a percentage, and I don't know that that's really the goal. It's more that we have the capability of doing either,
The
of doing
capability.
both. Yeah. So
Right.
when people talk about predicting the future, though, I caution them because
Mhm.
people go to a psychic because they want to hear that they're going to have, romance and money and a
Mhm.
house and security and whatever. But really, the function of looking at the future is what are your choices? Because the only time of any power is in the present moment. So if
Wow.
you're looking at any time other than the present, you're out of power. You're literally taking yourself out of your power. So to
That's
look at the future, the way to do it productively is to understand that the future is something that you can plan for in the present.
mhm.
But you always have your choices coupled with the choices of the other 8 billion people on the planet, the animals, the
A lot of
planet itself, the
choices, right?
cosmos. I mean, there are so many variables to the choices that are made in any given moment. You are not alone in that choice. You were talking about climate change and the fact that there was a tornado. So make your choice, and then there's a tornado. Now what? So life is always going to throw something at you that's going to
Yeah.
take your choice and spin it in a different direction, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay. And so to predict the future, you would have to know all of those variables that are coming into that
Mm,
moment. So what I tell
very
people instead is look at the Big Bang. Look at how we come from this moment in time where everything burst out of this center point. So
mhm.
think of fireworks. If there were fireworks in the sky, so this canister goes up into the sky and it explodes, right? So it's this little thing and it bursts in all different directions. And what do you see when you look at the fireworks? You see all of these arcs of light, all of these
Mhm.
trajectories that come out of the center. Okay, you're one of those points of light. And everything that's in the ash trail from the center to your point of light is your past. And
Wow.
everything that is in
Yeah.
front of you, everything that's in front of that point of light is your future.
Hmm.
So really, it's in darkness at the moment that you're that point of
Yeah.
light. What's illuminating it is you. Your
Mhm.
ability to see forward is lit by your own soul. And so your ability to predict the future depends on your centeredness, your awareness, your
Mhm.
present moment awareness, and your attention to what's actually going on in your life. And most people are so distracted by their stresses and by their
Absolutely.
individual dramas that they don't pay attention to what's happening in that very moment, what their intuition, their most important software, their intuition, what it is telling
Mhm.
them in that exact moment. And
Yeah.
so they miss that observation, and then they move on and they continue with the stress rather than the present. So the stress is either a worry about the future or a concern about the
A lot of
past.
people.
And
Mhm.
again, it divides them out of the present. This is why the present is the focus of all mystical teachings. It's why the
Mhm.
breath is the center of all,
Yeah.
um, martial arts,
Yeah.
yoga,
The,
Mhm.
meditation, because the
yeah.
breath is the one thing that you can only do in the present moment. You can't breathe the breath now and have the oxygen be there 6 months
And it
later,
and it
right?
brings you to the present moment. Yes.
Exactly right.
The
So
way
it's
you focus your consciousness. Yeah.
exactly. So focusing on your breath immediately brings you into the present moment. And so that's
Mhm.
why that's the focus in those practices is because it's a way to physically do something that makes you aware right now.
So
And
Jefferson, when you're working with people, how
Mhm.
do you get them to reach into themselves to listen and unveil their own tuition? Because from what you're saying, that the power is in that.
Yes. Well, I mean, the first thing they do is they report a dream to me and then I interpret it. And that conversation comes out of that interpretation. And that
Wow.
is specific and personal to every person that I speak with.
Mm.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And in terms of like, there's so much out there about what dreams mean, right? I mean, we can go back, we can go into like African cultures, which I've spent a lot of time in, their
Mhm.
dream interpretations, just because of who they are as a culture, or
Yeah.
who first Americans are as a culture, that would define their analysis of the dreams. How, from your perspective, when you're working with someone, how do you do it?
Well, the first thing I tell them is that no symbol has a one size fits all meaning.
Got
You're
it.
you're going to the person where they live. Okay, so I never studied psychology. I never read Freud or Jung, specifically because I'm writing my own book and I don't want their work influencing mine.
Excellent.
And this is something I've had since I was a child. I've had a knowing since I was a child about this, and it's
Mhm.
something that
Unknowing.
that I've
Right.
that I've cultivated over many, many years. So,
Mhm.
I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. My job is to go to where you are at that moment in your dream state and look at your life through that lens. So when
Mhm.
you're having a dream, it's another state of consciousness. You're in a different state of consciousness than your waking state, and in that state, physical laws don't apply,
Mhm.
and you are able to see the world through a metaphoric, symbolic lens that you don't see during the day.
Correct. Yes.
So
Okay,
it's a
so
metaphoric. So that's a big buzzword, a
Mhm.
mhm,
metaphoric symbolic lens.
mhm.
Because what you're seeing may not be what is because it's a
Well, in this
metaphor in
reality.
this
But
reality.
it's what is from a different perspective. So, for instance, if you and I use this example all the time. You and I are having an argument, not that we would, but we're having an argument, and then you go to sleep, and then you find you're having a conversation in the dream, but it's not me that you're facing. It's Tim, or it's Brad Pitt, or whoever that you pull into the person behind you at the Starbucks. It doesn't matter who it
Yeah.
is, but it's not me. It's because that gives you the opportunity to have the same conversation with no emotion attached to it. You're no
Mhm.
longer speaking to the person that you're angry at. You're now looking at the conversation through a different lens. And so
That's
that's what dreams do, is they bring you into the conversation of your life, in this life and past lives, in whatever your ancestry is, in whatever your entire being, going all the way back. I mean, we all have dreams that make no sense to us. It's because
Right.
they're not our memories. They're things that are scripted into our DNA through
right.
evolution, right?
Right.
So we're seeing images that have nothing to do with who we are personally, with the memory that we're having of something that we lived in our lifetime. What we're seeing is what we contain within us. There's a library within our DNA of all that
Uh-huh.
comes before us. And
Wow.
that wakes up, because if it's not appropriate to this lifetime, then where does it go? It either
Uh-huh.
stays dormant, or it wakes up in a dream and you see it as a momentary flash and then it's gone.
But
Mm.
it
That's
could
why,
wake up in a
Now,
dream. Wow.
yeah, one of
yeah,
the
that's
things.
why images. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I was just going to say one of the things that you mentioned before, as far as like the firework and the point of
The
light,
arc,
the
yeah.
point of
Yeah.
light goes
Mhm.
out,
Yeah.
and what's up ahead and what's behind. But in a dream state, there is a lot that is just our light that we can control and we can change, or that's in our ability. But we are also part of a societal system
Mhm.
where we might not be able to make changes that.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. So what you're alluding to is lucid dreaming, having the ability to control a dream from within the dream.
Mhm.
And a lot of times people will say to me that they have a specific technique in order to do that, and that's great. But what I say to them is, why would you think that you can't lucid dream? So in other words,
Mhm.
if someone says to me, "How do I lucid dream?" The first thing I say to them is, "Believe you can."
Right.
Wow.
I
Just think
used to
that you
be
can.
able to. I remember I used to be able to, but I don't
You lost the
consciously
ability.
remember, yeah,
So,
in
so
recent
that's
years.
what you just said is a perfect example of how I would begin to work with somebody. You say, "I used to be," which means your belief system in this present
Ah,
moment is that you no longer do.
that I can't do it.
Right.
Right.
That
I
you
love
have
that.
now blocked yourself off from the ability to do it because
Oh,
your current belief system is so strong through
Mhm.
habit, through repetitive thought, you have taught yourself to believe that you no longer do. And
Uh-huh.
therefore you don't. It becomes a
I
I
self.
think I
love that.
can. I think I can. I
Exactly.
think I can.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Well, I've
affirmation.
got
Absolutely.
a lot of those twisted up in here. Yeah, and
Yeah.
speaking of blockages, I do have a blockage which we can get into in a little while, but
So Jefferson, I want to go back a little bit to you as a small child,
yes.
realizing that this is a gift.
Mhm.
When did you
Yeah, when
discover
did the
that?
realization happen, and what way, how is it dealt with in your family?
Both really interesting questions. So when I was 3, I had a nightmare, and the nightmare was so intense that it stayed with me. And the reason it stayed with me was because, well, I'll give you just a sketch. I'm So sometimes when you're in a dream, it's like you're watching a movie. You're out, you're seeing it through your own eyes, and then suddenly you're in the movie. So both can be part of the same dream. Well, that's what happened to me. So I'm 3 years old, so I'm very small, and I see this house from the outside. The scene is black and white, like a black and white TV, except that it's got this hideous yellow tinge over it, and not like sepia, not something warm like that, like grotesque. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what the heck? And I suddenly am in the house and I'm being chased by a monster.
Oh,
And yeah, and without going into the whole dream, at the end of the dream, the monster catches me. But I wake up at that moment, so I don't know
But
what
you
happened.
could you feel the
Yeah.
handcuff or
Well, I just see it coming toward me, and then boom, I'm awake. And
wow.
in that moment, I wake up and I'm terrified. And I tell my mother about the dream. She's like, "Oh, it's just a nightmare. It's okay. It'll go away." And then the following day, the next day, we go to drive somewhere, and we're in a station wagon, and I'm in the back of the station wagon, and I look out the window, and there is the house.
okay. That's my
my
point
God.
exactly. So you could call that. I love that you're telling us this.
Well,
Yeah.
Because
what
yeah,
happened?
but you could call that a premonition.
Exactly. Yes. But again, go back to the arc of light. Okay. You see what's before you. It's lit up by your own light. So you have an idea of where you're heading, and you can see things that are coming. People look at the future and they think, "Oh, I've had a premonition." The fact is, all that information is in front of you all the time. It's just that every once in a while, you're actually paying attention to it.
It's
always
like opening a window to it.
exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly
we want to know
right.
what
And
happened with the
You
house
saw
now.
the
Yeah.
house.
so now I'm seeing the house. So of course now I'm ultra terrified, because not
I
only
was
is it
gonna
there,
say that
it's
would be
near
so
where
dark.
we live. You want to get a 3-year-old's attention, boom, I'm there. So I could, no matter what my parents said, I could not get rid of that dream. And
So
I
it was a repetitive dream.
no, it was just the one time.
Oh, just the one
Yeah,
time.
right.
Okay.
But it ran over it. Let's
Right.
just say it was in syndication in my head.
Yes, you were
And
carrying it with you.
I could not stop thinking about it, because the imagery was
Wow.
just so intense and so profound. So I ended up over time interpreting my own dream, but that took years and years of time. What it did, though, was at a very young age, it made me hyper aware of my dream state. And so I was always observing my dreams, because this one shocked me so much at such a young age. So I was really kind of born to this. I never intended this as a career. I never thought this is what I'm going to do. I'm a musician. I've always been a musician. I've been singing on stage since I was 5. And yet this came in and just riveted my attention. So I would start to talk about these things that I would hear in my head about it. And I would say, a sentence that I had basically like a download into my head. And I would think, "Oh, wow, that makes perfect sense." And then I'd say it to an adult or to another child, and they looked at me like I was crazy. And I realized I didn't have the vocabulary to articulate what I had just heard.
Oh,
I was hearing sentences that were more intelligent than I was able to convey.
wow.
And so, yeah, it was intense.
But
And
you understood the concept. You just didn't know how to verbalize it.
yeah, I think this comes from the fact that between the ages of 1 and 5, we're still more spirit than we are physical.
I agree.
That's a
Yes.
gradual progression. You come into this life from spirit, and as you're formed, you're very squishy when you're young. You can very bendable. You
Right.
can touch a baby's foot to its forehead. Try and do that to a 70-year-old,
Right.
right? Unless they're very good at yoga. So, what happens is, over time, our beliefs, the way that society teaches us, hardens us, because
Yes.
that's how we
Yes.
agree with this physical existence. In other words, we're spirit first. We're in a vessel. The vessel itself has to be a container for the spirit in this lifetime, so it becomes solid over time. That happens between the ages of 0 and 5. And so when you're in those years, you're still very connected to spirit. Kids see things that adults don't see.
Well, they can see spirits. They can't. Children all the time see spirits.
I mean, we hear it all the time, but it comes from the fact that they're not as disconnected from it as
Right.
we become, as
Conditioned,
society
yeah.
teaches us
We come here and we're taught to dispel
what's
that.
real and what's not. Exactly
What
right.
build up, right. What build up those Well, just like your parents saying to you, "Oh, it was a nightmare. You had a nightmare."
Exactly right. But I knew what was real for me. So what I figured out over time, and again, this took years to figure out, was that what I was seeing was not my memory.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I was watching it as a movie is because I was watching someone else's life. So
Mm.
I had actually picked up a radio signal from nearby where I lived of somebody who was being abused. And it
Wow.
came across in
Wow,
the
this
dream,
is like,
Wow. That's great.
and it came across in the dream as this monster who was attacking them.
Right.
So it made
Wow.
perfect sense to me later on, but that took
Yeah,
years for me
that does.
to allow myself to get to the point where I understood dream interpretation clearly enough to go back and interpret that dream.
Uh-huh.
So what happened was, as I heard these sentences in my head, I'm looking at my dream state and I'm like, well, what's going on here? Because if I'm watching a movie, when I watch a movie, there's a director, there's a screenwriter, there's an audience, there's a projectionist, there's the actors. Who am I in all of this?
right.
And the answer over time is you're all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Any dream can be from any of those perspectives. And a dream can even have multiple perspectives within it. Remember, I saw the dream from the outside first, and then I was in it, seeing
Uh-huh.
it from their perspective. But I was the person experiencing it. So
Right.
your dream can put you in, and because physical laws don't apply, you can be in any of those places at any
So
time.
you can be an
What-
observer. That's what you were. Was brilliantly put. A radio signal.
Yes.
All right.
That's
And
exactly it.
you
Yeah,
were the observer of this abuse happening to somebody else.
Mhm.
exactly
But
right.
you kind of tuned into that as an observer, but then become empathetic in a
Yes,
way
Yeah.
where you
absolutely. Yeah.
actually are absorbed by this the abused person. Wow.
Yeah, and I've been that by nature all my life. When I was 3 years old, I had to be in the hospital for a brief visit. It was overnight, and while I was there was a 10-year-old in the bed next to me, and he had a broken leg. And at some time in the wee hours of the night, he was crying, and my 3-year-old self started consoling him, and the nurse walked in and witnessed this and reported it to my mother. And the only reason I remember this, other than my memory of actually being in the bed next to him and doing it, was that she was just so happy with the fact that this was reported back to her, that this is how I had tried to console him. And I say that story only because it shows you how far back this
Really?
intention to
Mhm.
heal others goes in my life. I mean, it's something I've lived since I was a kid.
Mhm.
How does that
Wow.
manifest within your own energy, Jefferson? Like putting that out, the ability to heal others. How does it leave you afterwards? Is it a satisfying feeling or is it a drained feeling?
Oh, yeah, I never get drained by it. No, what
You
I
don't
get
get
drained, no, because again, it's present moment energy. If you're in the present moment, you're not going to get drained by something. If you're active and passionate about what it is that you're doing, you're going to absolutely love it. But if I mean, what any exhaustion you get from that is going to be happy exhaustion. There's a difference between that and when the world is weighing on your shoulders. I mean,
right.
I make mistakes like everybody else. I've been in relationships that have gone very sour. I've done things that have taught me along the way as much as any other human being. And this is what we do. This is school. Our spirit is here to learn. This is the container in which we do it.
Mhm.
And so we trial and error. We go through things. We make mistakes, and then that teaches us what works for us and what doesn't. And what I have found is that my place in this world over time is through music and through dream interpretation, through conversations like this one, being able to reach out to people and show them how their life can be better and how they can themselves help other people make their lives better. It's like that shampoo commercial. They'll tell two friends and so on and so on. Right.
That's really beautiful.
Right.
That's a very beautiful.
Really, really well
Yeah.
put.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a human being. I make mistakes as much as anybody else does. I am not here to say that, I'm some guru. I'm absolutely not. I am
I thought you
here
were
to say this is what I learned. And if it works for you, great, take it with you. If it doesn't, leave it at the door. That's it.
Yeah,
Right.
because I'm also a very strong believer that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Without a doubt.
Uh-huh.
How much do you believe, Jefferson, or know that because we're talking about a DNA that can go back thousands of years, how much of what we are in terms of who we are is based on our past lives, like the things that we do. Is this something that is in each and every one of us?
Sure. How could it not be? I mean, let's talk about past lives. If you were to speak to somebody about a past life, 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you they were royalty, they were, some public figure. There's this.
Oh, I was royalty. I'm sure of it.
There's this great video on YouTube where I forget who it was, but they were talking about being skeptic of past lives, and they were talking about how they went to a party where a bunch of people who were dressing up as the past life that they were all there, and there were 2 Napoleons, and I just thought that was hilarious and funny. But the funny thing is, though, that I mean, if someone says I was Cleopatra or Antony or Caesar or whatever, and by the way, it's never the slave, then
Right.
what? So why is that? It's because we imagine ourselves in that place. But the real fact of it is, we are all of those people, because the dust from the world, the planet recycles everything over and over and over again. So the dust that made up those people, including the slave, has been around the world a billion times.
Right.
And we've breathed it all in and out. We've breathed in their DNA and breathed it back out again and shared it with everyone around us. So it literally makes up the atoms in our body which recreate themselves. So we're literally expelling ourselves and taking on a new self. I mean, what is it that the skeleton, recreates itself, that like the atoms are exchanged, within a certain amount of years. So if you are in that kind of an exchange, then you are literally exchanging yourself with the DNA of everyone else on the planet constantly. So to say you are any one person is a misnomer. It's that you are part of all of it. And so you have the memories of all of it. You have all of these things within you that can awaken at any particular time. Now, you also have a trajectory. As I said, there's one that's individual to you. There's your ancestry.
Right.
There's also the past lives that perhaps you did live before this one that can be more specific to your lifetime. Mine, I'm writing a song about it at this point, is about, I had a past life as a sailor on a clipper ship. I know this because of the imagery and how intense it is in my dream state, and how that's followed me my whole life. It's just something that I have a knowing about, and other people have that same kind of knowing. But how much of that is romanticizing and how much of that is actual memory?
Right.
It's kind of both. But the point is that it kicks in so that you're looking at the metaphoric conversation, so you can look at this lifetime in the present, which is the only time that any of that information has any sway.
Right.
You
Where
can
you're
look
using
at that
it.
information as being something that can actually inform your life in a positive way. So in my case, understanding, why was I on that ship? What was the purpose of me being there? What did I learn while I was there? What didn't I learn while what couldn't I forgive and let go of while I was there? And how does that apply to this lifetime? Am I still holding on?
I'm curious, has this reoccurred a lot for you, this ship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Since I was a kid, not just the ship, the waves, what I was wearing, that I was in the crow's nest, all of it. Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind indulging me for a few minutes.
He loves to be indulged.
I will try to make it as quickly as possible, but I have had past life regression a couple times.
Yeah.
One I don't remember. It's on tape. I would have to review the tape, but the one that was glaringly obvious. I was not Cleopatra. I was not Napoleon. I was a man, kind of in the Old West, like the settlers, like a very, very almost like Little House on the Prairie, like a very rough life, rustic existence. Wife and a child had a son, and what had occurred, it was just kind of touching on the last moments or at the end. He had just recently lost his wife. His wife was pregnant with their daughter, and he lost them both in childbirth.
Wow.
And shortly after that, his son was wrongly accused and hung in town. And he, within like the matter of a year, he lost everything, and the despair and pain was so much that he took his life with his shotgun. and I was
see all this.
immediately, I could feel it. I was
Yeah,
there,
wow.
and I
Well-
I immediately came out of that. Well, fast forward to a few years ago. I'm sure you're very well aware of law of attraction.
Yeah.
Um, um, we had a friend of mine we were going to do an afternoon. They were having a filming of it, a live viewing of it, and so I went out to New Jersey, and we were sitting there, and I had placed an intent of kind of freedom, that I just wanted to be open and willing to accept what I would learn. And part of the way through, I just lost it. I had this overwhelming feeling of sadness that was very familiar to me, that started to lift off of me. And I just remember seeing that dark, deep sadness in front of me and saying, that poor person has been experiencing this their whole life. And then I realized it was me.
Wow.
It was me, and the sadness came back. I still haven't been able to get rid of it for good, because it's familiar. It's what I know. I feel it's part of me, you know. And
grab
but
onto
I
it.
haven't really told anybody about that. But that was
Wow.
it. Just I was wondering if sadness can be transferred from one life into the next.
Sure, absolutely. That's exactly what I was talking about. And thank you for that wonderful example.
Yeah, really great.
For being brave enough to share it. I really appreciate that. You know, I do shows all the time where people give me their dreams live on the air, and I'm just always so humbled by how honest people will be about the depth of their sorrow and pain and difficulty, and how they really open up about their dreams. And it's just marvelous. I'm just so grateful, Tim, that you did that. It really illustrates this, doesn't it? Because what you talked about is an actual past life, as opposed to
Yeah.
you know, the fantasy I was talking about before. So yes, we do have everyone there all the time, but we also have this secondary thing of or actually, I guess it's primary. I guess the other is secondary. That we come from a specific trajectory. So this is what healing your ancestry is about. If you are carrying a weight that belongs to someone else, it's looking
It's so spot on. That's exactly what he's describing.
it's looking to be healed. You are one step away from the lifetime where it was so difficult it could not be let go of. You have the opportunity again in this lifetime to say, this isn't my sadness.
Wow.
I feel it. I sympathize with it. Obviously, I empathize with it, or I wouldn't be feeling this way. Empathy is a tricky thing. It can be a wonderful thing in that you are able to, you know, stand in another person's shoes long enough to help them. But it can also be a destructive thing if you take it on too much for too long, because then it becomes something that actually affects you personally and affects your health.
Exactly.
So I always caution people who say to me, I'm an empath. I'm like, okay, maybe, but you know, how are you utilizing that? How are you actually making that work for yourself as well as other people? If you're an empath without focus, you end up being the victim of your own empathy.
Oh my God,
Yes.
so well put. It ends up hurting you. That
That's exactly
empathy
right.
will
Yes,
end up
exactly.
hurting you. Yeah.
Exactly right. And so what you want to do instead is you want to be a vessel for the energy long enough to clear it. So first off, you have come to a major awareness. Now, this is something, so I do private sessions. This is exactly what I would do in a private session.
Yeah.
So you've come to the awareness now that you have this past life. You kept referring to the life as he, which is very interesting because I always refer to the sailor as me. I know that's me in a past life. I own it. You've actually taken it and you've made it third person, which is fascinating to me. So you're looking at your own life through the lens of someone else that you once were, and already you're detaching from it. So that means that you're already on the road to letting this go.
Well, hopefully I'm focusing more on the light from the firework that
Yes.
in there,
mean,
that is separate, that is
that arc,
separate
right.
from
if you
before.
want to do a private session after this interview, Tim, let's do it, and we'll go through it.
Just like
because we should go over this in more detail, but just for
Yeah,
the sake of the audience understanding what's going on here,
yeah.
you then have the opportunity to be in touch with that person and acknowledge their sadness, because that's what didn't happen.
Mhm.
Everyone that person cared about
Yeah.
was gone.
Yeah.
No one was there to acknowledge his sadness.
Mhm.
And so he had nothing to live for in his mind.
Mhm.
So he took his own life because he felt that everything that he had built was gone.
Yeah, and all
This
the
is where-
work, that tremendous amount of work that it would take daily for what?
to build it back up, and he just wasn't.
Yep.
He just didn't feel that he wanted to do that in this lifetime.
Mhm.
So what happens is, when you're healing your ancestry, and this is true of our actual ancestry as well as our past lives, what you're getting is, let's say you have a great grandfather who went through this instead of this past
Mhm.
life, or maybe your great grandfather was out west. I don't know, but
Mhm.
that lifetime, what you're experiencing is forgiveness waiting to happen.
Mhm.
And because
Right.
it hasn't happened, you are now carrying the burden of someone else's lack of forgiveness.
Mhm.
So when people have a dream about the bathroom, going to the bathroom, it's usually because they have something to let go of.
Mhm.
If you're in the bathroom and having the experience of being on the toilet and whatever, what it's telling you is that there's something that you need to release that you haven't released. And if you think about it literally, physically, if you don't release what you hold on to in terms of what you take into your physical body every day, what you eat, if you don't release that, you'd be dead in a week.
Right.
Mhm.
And not only that, it's a block. It blocks you.
Mhm.
It blocks you. It keeps you from moving forward. It makes you sluggish. That's what holding on to the past is. Your body is a literal metaphor every day about how you need to release the past every single day. If you held on to, what comes out of you, then it would literally kill you over time.
Mhm.
But that's what we do with our spiritual matter
Uh-huh.
that we hold on to. And we're holding on to our past matter as well without even realizing it. So once you get the awareness, then you reach out to that person specifically. You have this past life. You need to connect with them and say, I see what this pain that you've gone through. Make a ritual out of it. Light a candle, write it down.
That's a great idea,
Yeah.
right? To
We're
acknowledge it that way.
we're physical creatures in this lifetime. This may just be a vessel, but while we're here, we've agreed to this physical existence. A
Exactly.
table is hard. You walk off a building, you fall.
Right.
That's what we've agreed to as spiritual buildings. We're in this spiritual beings. We're in this container for a period of time in order to learn, and then the spirit moves on to something else. Okay, and perhaps goes into another container. But in this moment, who you are, who Tim is looking to release this sadness that belongs to someone else.
Right.
So how would you do that? You'd write it down, you'd release it, because literally the pen, the ink in the pen is your thoughts going down onto the
Right.
paper.
It's important.
Yeah.
What
Right.
he's
And
saying.
then once it's on the paper, then what do you do with that? Burn it.
Burn
Mhm.
it.
Yep.
You want to
Burn
get rid of it.
Set
Burn
it
it. Take the ashes and plant them. Put them in a garden.
Mhm.
Because the
Yeah.
earth will take that carbon, which is now neutral. You've literally destroyed the negativity. It'll take the neutral carbon, and it'll grow it into a plant the following year, and you're literally creating something beautiful.
life. You're creating life too.
Exactly right. Exactly. You're creating life out of something that was dead.
Jefferson, when a dream, I've had the same dream for years now, and I have it a lot. I'm on a subway and it
Mhm.
turns into a railroad. My parents are on it, and I go to a place that's filled with buildings, and it's filled with people I know that have passed, as well as some living.
Mhm.
And it's a happy place. It's got lots of hills.
Mhm.
Maybe it's San Francisco, but it looks like New York. I
Okay.
have this dream it's like I have this dream at
Wow.
least once a week. And
Wow.
I can tell it to you so vivid. I don't need to even write it down because it's so specific. I actually look forward to going to sleep because I embrace this dream. What is that? And do people come to you and tell you they've had the same dream for years?
Oh God, yeah. That's my specialty, is recurring dreams. I love when people have recurring
Reoccurring dreams.
dreams.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What does
absolutely.
that mean?
When did you first have it?
It started probably like 12 years ago.
What was going on 12 years ago?
Um,
Did someone pass?
No, nobody passed, but I have a lot of stuff I've taken with me from the AIDS era, losing so many people. My
Mhm.
parents passing was in the time my dad passed when I was 27, but it was accepted. My dad had been sick for a long time, but then all of a sudden, my parents start showing up on the railroad with me, and it's going really fast. And we go to it's a neighborhood, right? It could be Co-op City or someplace in the Bronx where all the buildings kind of look the same.
Yeah.
But the people in the streets are friends that I've lost. I've lost a lot of friends, and they're
Yeah, me
there,
too.
and they're very comforting to me, and I'm so happy to see them again. We embrace each other.
So it's in a way a very joyful.
It's a very joyful experience. It's terrible. I was talking about this with someone. I like that dream because I can visit the dead people.
It'll be very comforting.
Right.
So there are,
I don't believe that they're dead. They're just elsewhere.
exactly. So there are different kinds of recurring dreams. If this were a recurring dream that was haunting you, that you had because you were stressed about something, then this would be a very different interpretation. In your case, it's a wonderful thing because it's mediumship. It's you getting in touch with the people who passed and being in touch with them in this lifetime on a regular basis. I mean, there's nothing wrong about that. I'd keep having that recurring dream. The thing about the other kind of the negative recurring dream is that you want to know what it's or the one that's just foggy, you don't know why you have it, is that there's a message in it. And the message will recur over time until you get the message. That's why the dream recurs. So if you were to give me an example of that, then that's a different issue. But what you're experiencing is very positive. So it's not something you want to lose. It's not something that comes to a conclusion. Usually a recurring dream that has, that's a stress indicator comes to a conclusion when you understand the message that the world, the universe is basically tapping you on the shoulder with a message. In your case, the message is that these people are always here for you, and you've embraced that, and you've been able to channel that into this amazing dream that is comforting to you. Never lose that. I mean, that's something that'll be with you for the rest of this lifetime. That's
great to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now,
but I don't know that there's a lot to interpret from it other than enjoy it.
Nice.
It's a vacation. It's a way for you to commune with them. If they have something specific, one thing you could do is ask them if there's anything that you want them to tell you. So the dream itself starts underground because you're in a subway, which is where we put the dead, underground.
Wow. Okay. Now that explains the subway that goes into
and
a
becomes a
railroad.
railroad because it becomes above ground,
Right.
which is where we picture, first off, where we are in life, and also where heaven would be, which is above the ground. And then, so now you're in this city, but all the buildings look similar, and you're seeing all these people who have passed. So the city itself, you say it's like a neighborhood. Well, it is.
Yes.
You're looking at heaven. You're looking at all these people have this wonderful place to live. It's familiar to you. It's some place that you know that you can visit anytime. So all of that is very positive. There are no negative imageries in this dream. So there's no reason to not keep doing it. What I would invite you to do is to maybe begin to converse with them. And just that, is there anything that you guys want?
That's what never occurred to me. There's physical touching and hugging and smiling and all of that, but no questions, no commenting or anything like that. So that now you put that up here.
Yeah, but the question is that what you want? I mean, if you want to just enjoy the dream as the beautiful ride that it is, leave it as it is. Or
I'd like to go further with it.
Then go ahead. But do it in advance. I would go to the store, get a card and like an invitation, and just literally write. So you say your mom and dad are on the trip with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so start with them. All right. Wait to get to the people in the city when you get there. But in the beginning you'll find this dream will progress over time. So in the beginning, what you want to do is just write to your mom and dad and just invite them, while we're on the train, let's talk. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me what it is that you would have to say to me, if anything. And, I know you love me. I know you only want the best for me, and I know I'm safe with you. So we're going to move forward and have a beautiful conversation. You're welcome to talk to me anytime. Put that under your pillow. Pull it out and read it before you go to bed. Pull it out and read it when you wake up in the morning.
Amazing,
Love that.
Put
right?
it back in, keep it under your pillow the whole time, and just watch what changes, and then call me and we'll talk about what the dreams mean as they come
Wow.
in. They will. They will. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years professionally at least, and what I have found is that when I have these conversations with people, they are immediately changed. There's a testimonial that someone gave me once, where she came to one of my workshops having had a recurring nightmare since she was a child that she could not get rid of, and she talked to me for 15 minutes and has never had the dream again.
Wow.
And to this day, I see her once in a while. She's a Facebook friend, and to this day reports the same thing. And that's not
How,
uncommon.
wow.
I also have people who have said to me, you know, I don't dream. I don't remember my dreams. And I have a conversation with them. And the next thing I know, I'm having regular sessions with them where they're coming to me to have their dreams interpreted.
Mm.
So,
Amazing.
yeah,
Oh.
it really is about getting yourself in the present moment and understanding that they're your dreams. You're the one dreaming them. There is no detachment. That's why I said about lucid dreaming. Why would you believe that you can't do it when it's your dream? The only thing separating you from your dream is you.
Yes. And now that it's implanted,
Yes.
that she will be taking it more into a more
Well,
lucid
yeah, he
dream,
gave me something
where
tangible,
where
right?
you have more control over
Right.
it.
And it's
Right.
and exactly right. I've given you
That's
instructions for a form of
Right.
lucid dreaming
Right.
that you are taking control of before you go to sleep. But then when you get to sleep, you will wake up in the dream and go, "This is what Jefferson was talking about. Hi, Mom," and it changes the dream.
Yeah.
So you have connected by doing this, you're present with your dream state.
Yeah.
You're giving me something I can do in my current present, a tangible,
Exactly.
right? I can touch it and smell it and feel
Yeah.
it and take that into my dream state. That's
This is
just brilliant.
this is what I was talking about at the beginning. I mean, if you want to predict the future, do a vision board. Create the future. You know, it's your future. Why would you walk to? Oh, I mean, yes, card readings. I do them myself. You know, I'm there to help people and advise them. But if you go to a card reader and you go, okay, what's going to happen in 6 years? What? What is that
Yeah.
question? I never understand why people do this. When people come to me, I say, you know what? There's a tarot reader next door. Go to them.
Good.
Yeah.
I do, because I'm not the man. I'm not the man for you. I'm here to look at what's going on in your life and what your choices are and what's holding you back from the future that you're trying to create.
What
What
is
is
your
it?
experience with the Viking runes then?
When I went through my own thing, so I was 35 and I went through a horrible, horrible breakdown, and it really changed my life. I mean, I was inches away from not making it out of this lifetime, and
Wow.
yeah, it was really bad. So it turned out I had 35 years worth of seasonal affective disorder that had gone untreated,
Wow.
and then this built up over time and became this really intense moment in my life, and coming out of that, one of the things that saved me was beginning to explore the Viking runes. Ralph Blum, who wrote a book called The Book of Runes, which was a modern day interpretation of the runes,
Absolutely.
had done an interview, oddly enough, 8 years before on a radio station. There was a show called The Edge of Reality, and the host was interviewing him. Oddly enough, I had recorded that interview. So when I had that breakdown, I remembered this. I was seeing someone. We had just broken up. It's part of what initiated the breakdown, and they were wearing a pendant with a Viking rune on it. It was what we would see as the letter R in in English, and it's pronounced Rytho, and it signifies journey. And so I realized I was witnessing this rune because I recognized it. I had a past life that was connected with this in Scandinavia, and I felt that my whole life. I sing in Swedish. It's something that I've just naturally,
Wow.
yeah, and not because I can understand and speak Swedish. It's because I learned it phonetically. It's just I've had an affiliate. I've been, yeah, I have an affinity for it throughout my life. And
Wow.
it just over time became that. So anyway, I knew there was a connection there. And so I went back and I found the tape and I listened to the interview, went out and bought the book, and then started reading the runes, and found that they were all symbols that were based in nature. They were all energy symbols that made sense to me because of their connection to nature. And so really everything that I teach now is based on that philosophy that nature is our best software. And so
Yes.
I read the runes specifically, and oracle cards, because those were an extension of the runes for me. In my experience, I didn't see an oracle card for the next 20 years. Someone gave me a deck as a gift, and I opened it, and I didn't even have to look at the instruction book. I just started reading them
We just
because
need to read them.
Wow.
the philosophy was exactly the same as the runes.
Uh-huh.
Because everything was based in nature, and everything had, this symbolic overtone to it that made perfect sense to me. So that whole journey came from my own darkness. This is why I say, I made my own mistakes. There were a lot of times when the things that I did and who I was hurt other people and myself, that then became the conversation I'm having with you now over time.
Mhm.
But
It
maybe
was
I'm thinking that was supposed to happen, because
absolutely.
for you to, you
Absolutely.
had, so we have to have that happen. So we evolve to where we are supposed to be in our path
Absolutely.
in the
When-
universe.
Yes, when I was in that trajectory, I thought, I'm a musician. This is what I'm going to do. I just finished producing a CD for another artist. I had, produced a dance record for another artist a couple of years before that. I was looking to record my own material, and then suddenly I'm just down for the count, and I can't even function. And it came from this culmination of all these different negativities that had been building up for all this time.
Wow.
And it was dark. It was really dark. But coming out of that, I was able to change my trajectory and do what I already knew. But really, what happened was I became able to articulate what I'd always known. I began listening to authors like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and Carolyn Mace and
Yeah.
Iyanla Vanzant, and and Louise Hay, and I started to really immerse myself in those teachings, and I understood through that how to articulate what I know about dream interpretation, what I've known since I was a child, and then I began to teach it as I became more comfortable with that philosophy. And really what it is reasoning more than anything else. Um, I grew up on Sherlock Holmes, so it's that philosophy that if you've gone through all of the facts, and whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. That's
Uh-huh.
total paraphrase of the quote, but that idea that what you're doing is you're sifting through all of the evidence in order to find what actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So what I've learned is that I'm good at mirroring. So, my interpretations are just that. They're my interpretations. They may or may not work for you. But the point is that I'm observing you. I'm reading your energy. I'm reading what your intuition is telling me. When we're in eye-to-eye conversation, I'm looking at you on the screen now, which is why my gaze is probably off to the side. But if we're on an eye-to-eye conversation, that's how we're talking about what's going on in the periphery. So
Right.
we're sitting at a diner, and the waitress comes over, and I'm talking with you, and we're eye to eye, and suddenly the waitress comes on. Now I'm distracted. I'm like, yes, let me give you my order. You're going to wait till I come back. Well, that's how the universe.
Energy
Yeah,
shifts. Yeah.
Okay. That's how your intuition works. That's how the universe is. It's only there for you when you pay attention to it, but it's also there for you 24/7. There's never a time you don't have intuition that is functional. It's just how much are you connecting with the conversation? Are you
That is
talking to the waitress, or are you talking to your intuition? Are you talking to the waitress, or are you talking to to the universe? When you're connected, when you're in the present, when you're in that gap between your thoughts, then you have power. Then you can make that change. Then you can create the future you've been working on.
Yeah, because one of the problems is that the world and the universe can be so damn distracting.
It is. It really is.
So look to nature. Going back,
Pay
yeah,
attention to the intuition, but it's like, wait, whoa, wait, what did that happen?
exactly. Well, that's the thing. We're like little kids with sparklers. Something gets our
Right,
attention,
exactly.
right? And it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, shiny. I mean,
Yes.
that's what ADD and ADHD are, right? Because
Right.
which I have. That it's you have this predisposition to be distracted by the world.
Mhm.
We all do. Is we're here to learn. So how are you going to learn if you don't pay attention? When I was a kid, my mother told me the parent-teacher night she'd go in and she never heard the same report twice. One time I was very studious and I was getting good grades. Another time I was just looking out the window at the birds. And she never knew what to expect when she went in there. So the next time I was disruptive and talking with my friends. But for me, it was just that there are all these possibilities. Why are you exploring only the one? We're taught in such a regimented way. That's not
Right.
how
And
nature
everybody's
is.
supposed to be the same.
But
And
we
they're
know
not.
that not to be true. Jefferson, if you were going to tell people, because we did a lot of talking today at this session
amazing.
about being in the present.
Yeah.
What do you tell yourself to stay in the present? We know that distractions are there.
Yeah.
Now, what do we do we know we can meditate to be in the present, but in our everyday lives, Wendy getting off the train, Tim riding downtown, what do we tell ourselves to stay in the present?
So if you're depressed or anxious, if you're depressed, you're in the past. If you're anxious, you're in the future. 9 times out of 10.
Right.
If you're stressed by something, you're paying attention to something that's in front of you rather than what's within you.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you dial that back, again, go back to the breath. Okay. So focus on your breathing. Do what I call square breathing. Okay. Very common thing that's taught in many psychological circles. Breathe in for the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, breathe out for the count of 4, hold for the count of 4. That practice makes you count. It makes you think. It makes you focus on the activity rather than the thing that's distracting you.
Right. It makes you present.
Exactly right. So it pulls you into the present. The other thing is notice new things. If you are, this comes from the teachings of Dr. Ellen Langer, who I highly recommend. Read all of her material. She's great. Go on to YouTube or to any podcast interview of hers. It will change your life to listen to one interview by Dr. Ellen Langer. She is they call her the mother of mindfulness. She is the first tenured psychology professor at Harvard from back in the 70s. And she has been spending all of that time doing scientific research around mindfulness and how to stay in the present moment. Her work is extraordinary and it will change your life.
And Langer, her last name, Langer?
Langer?
Exactly right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. I wrote it down.
Good.
She says to notice new things. Like when you go on vacation, right? Everything around you is new. You go to Hawaii.
Yes,
The flowers are different. You've got the ocean, you've got the beach, you've got the cocktail, you've got the language. Everything is beautiful. The colors. You're constantly being wowed by everything that's unexpected. Come back home. I guarantee you that if a Hawaiian came into your house, they'd have the same experience. They'd be like, "Oh, look at this, look at that." Everything would be new. And I guarantee you, right now, you could go to some other room in your house and find 5 things that you didn't notice before.
I never thought of looking at it that way.
That is
correct.
Everything that you notice that's new immediately pulls you into the present moment because you're now no longer looking at the distraction. You're looking at the thing that's directly in front of you.
Wow. Well, Jefferson Harman, my goodness, this has been absolutely amazing.
I don't know where the time went. The time became something else. Our time with you became something else.
Absolutely. But now you can find out more about Jefferson at Jefferson Harman on Instagram and X, and also the website at everydaysymbology.com, which is here on the screen. It's here on the screen.
Yeah, just for your viewers too. My website is currently under reconstruction. So I had 2 websites. One of them was Star Dreams Cafe, and that is a series of shows that I did at the Algonquin Hotel in New York City with Adam Rothenberg, who has his own show, Call Me Adam. And Adam would co-host with me. He would interview Broadway performers, and then I would interpret their dreams in the second segment. Those shows.
Fabulous.
They're all available on YouTube in the meantime until we get the website back up. So please go to YouTube and look up Star Dreams Cafe, and you'll find the interviews there. And they will all be on the Everyday Symbology website when we get it back up.
Wonderful.
And we have a couple of comments on here too.
One thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you dream about?
Oh, wow. Well, everything. Everything. What I will tell you is that I interpret them as I go. because I
I
let
wrote
go.
that very
Because
analytical.
you can.
Well, I mean, you do this for as long as I have. I mean, literally, it's a lifelong pursuit.
Uh-huh.
Um, and you know that you can lucid dream at any time. I'm literally having the dream going, oh, okay, because there's no disconnect. So
So it's
this is
kind of
what
an
it can be
extension.
for you.
It's
Say
kind of
again?
it's kind of an extension of this reality in a way.
Without doubt, yeah, exactly. I mean, society teaches
Your
us.
consciousness is the same. Yeah.
Society teaches us that there's a separation. That this,
Right.
this is reality, and then there's your dreams. But
Yes.
who's to say what reality is? Because yours and Wendy's and mine and the viewers, we're all entirely different. None of us see reality the same way. So what does
Yeah.
that
I
even mean?
have trained my mind to remember my dreams, and the way I did it was by writing them down as soon as even if it were 4 o'clock in the morning, write it
Mhm.
down. You can train your mind to remember. That's important to me. I want to remember my
Mhm.
dreams.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an important thing. We had
Well,
a
we
couple of
did.
comments here today.
Mhm.
Andrea Ross Green, hello, Wendy, Tim, and Jefferson. And it
And
was great hearing you, Jefferson.
yes, and
And
Lori, our friend Lori Towers, she says it's fascinating
of
conversation.
course, right.
And hello from Sue's Genero in Massachusetts. She is a fashion designer.
Yep.
And yes, we thank everybody for tuning in. We
Yeah.
certainly appreciate that.
Yes,
And
thank you guys.
and we are so grateful and so appreciative of your taking the time and just sharing this
Absolutely. Yes.
innate ability and wisdom that you have,
Yeah.
that you have developed.
I feel totally refreshed.
Me too.
I feel
Me
like,
too.
Wonderful.
like
Me
I've-
too. Me too. This is great. I love doing
one
this.
of those isolation tanks, you know, when you're in, that's how I feel. I feel like I've been cleansed by you, Jefferson, you know?
Oh wow. Well,
Um,
it's just so great to talk with the both of you, and you just have such great energy. I'm really, really
Okay.
pleased and happy to be here.
Well, thank
So-
Well,
you.
we thank you very much. And thank everyone for tuning in. We certainly appreciate it. This is If These Walls Could Talk.
Thank you. Bye-bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Bye bye.